I would like to know what is your expectation from today's lecture. What do you understand by probably the term tendering? And I guess we also have to talk a little bit about contracts. Any one of you, can you tell me what is tendering? You suppose this is a live audience, like I can say, okay, here there's some small gift for you or something. Maybe in the virtual mode we should have told Amazon voucher for the first person who speaks. Anyway, it's coming in a little late. But what is tendering? What do you understand by tendering? I'm not going to call out anybody's name. Just somebody can volunteer and answer. What is tendering?
Sir, it's a process for getting any tender.
Okay, actually it's
I
a
think
process for getting any job. Okay, first question. If suppose a person gets a job, say in Microsoft or Google, we say that they are in the what we call as the IT industry. Now, I think it will be in place if I offer a 200 rupee Amazon voucher to the first person who answers what is the field we are in. If suppose I as a BTech or BE civil engineer goes out, in which field will I work in, work in? So anyway, just quickly answer the question.
sir, can you pardon the question, please?
Repeat the question. Yes, Gaurav, which industry do we belong to? If suppose a person works in Microsoft or Google, we say that they are working in the IT industry. Now, which industry does a civil engineer work in?
Sir, in L&T.
No, L&T is a company. It does the work in our particular industry.
Construction engineer, sir.
Construction engineering. Okay, but I think the industry name is not coming in here. What is the industry we are working in?
Sir, cement industries.
Construction industry.
Sorry?
Construction industry.
The cement industries.
Cement
sir,
industries,
like
okay.
Ambuja Cement.
Okay. I can't really agree on that. Any other answer? I mean, like it's. Like I'm very happy with the interaction you guys are giving. I'm just making a note of your names, Gaurav Yadav and Shaktiman Mahato. Okay. Okay. Anyway, any other person? Anybody else? I'm just going to share that between both of you. Okay, so actually we work in the EPC industry. Okay, engineering, procurement and construction. So if suppose somebody says what is this, where are you working, typically we are going to define ourselves as EPC professionals, especially in the light of tenders. Okay, because we are looking at a topic called tenders and contracts. We will be speaking on we'll be calling ourselves as EPC professionals. Okay, so what do? We do three things: engineering, we do the procurement, and then we do the construction also. Okay, which year do you belong to, Gaurav and Shaktiman?
Sir, Gaurav, I'm sir of third year.
Third year. Okay, Gaurav is in third year. Shaktiman?
Second year.
Second year. Okay. Anyway, any first year students who will answer, I'll be really glad. And actually there is also a couple of chat messages. It's a little difficult for me to actually, yeah, infrastructure and development. Sanjeev Mohanty, I think I will also include Sanjeev Mohanty's answer in this, but this is a very nice interaction. Okay, Sanjeev Mohanty, which year do you belong to, Sanjeev? Okay, we'll not wait too much on that. Okay, let's move on. So we are going to look at some of the concepts of tendering and contracts. We are going to go very rapidly, and to be a little bit about myself, I am John. I've been working in VIT from the year 2015, and before this I was working in a company called Saipem, which is an Italian major in petroleum and natural gas. So they were what we call as, they are also EPC majors. Before that I worked in another company, I think most of you know, it's L&T, and I worked in a division called material handling. Okay, metallurgical material handling division, MMH. IC as we call it. I don't know if any of your parents are working or any of your relatives are working. They are currently based out of Kolkata. And before that, I was working in another company called Consolidated Construction Consortium, where we were doing some very nice projects. I was part of the team that did a tendering for the metro train yard, which is there in Coimbatore. It was a very nice experience. We also at the time backed the contract for the metro stations. We backed the contract for the airport. We backed a lot of other prestigious projects. We extended the Chennai airport runway over the Adyar River. Okay, so in all of these, I'm saying we backed the contract. What did we do? We participated in the tendering process, and then we got this job, and we made a lot of money. Okay, we tried to make a lot of money. Basically, I can't say we made a lot of money, because those of you who are familiar with the Chennai Metro, you will know that the stations project was taken from CCCL and handed over to other parties. Okay, so we are always trying to make a lot of money. In fact, that is the thing, we are trying to make a lot of money out of the entire work, and that is why we are working as contractors. Okay, once you finish your course, you would be most likely you will be called as contractors, and believe me, contracting is very addictive. Okay, I will say that, because you will know that if a company is going to thrive and grow, it has to bag many orders, and the contracting team or the tendering team is very, very important to this. In CCCL, we were working both for tendering and for the jobs, and I was working for 1.5 years as a design engineer in L&T, and then I was working with the tendering department. In SIPM also, it was almost 1 year of engineering, hardcore engineering, another 6 months in the tendering department. Okay, so this is my background, and with this we will be going on with this. Okay, now tendering as a word it's actually a process. Somebody wants to have a job done, they will do some work and then estimate how much it's going to cost, and they'll call people and say, will you do this job? If you do this job, at what price will you do this job? And then we will pay you for that. So this is the tendering system, and it's a global thing. There are many rules and many laws that govern how tendering can be done. Let's move on. Okay, one minute, my slide is not advancing for some reason. Okay, so these are some of the very important things which are there as part of a tender. Okay, specifications, then this will be done by the owner. Many times the jobs go afoul when the specifications are not right, and today, because many of the companies have burned their hands so many times, people don't make the same mistake again. The mistake of allowing the contractor to explain the rules of the game. How does this happen? Suppose you want to buy a mobile phone. Okay, now let me call somebody, if you don't mind. Rahul Gupta. Rahul Gupta. Hello Rahul, can you hear me? Yes, Rahul. Or okay, I see there's one more person. Can Yagala Sushant?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Yagala. When did you last buy your mobile phone?
Sir, last year, sir.
Huh? Yeah, when did you buy?
I bought my phone last year, sir.
Last year. What are the things you were looking for in your phone?
Sir, sorry I didn't get it.
What are the features in the phone that you were wanting to have?
Sir, the processor, the
Okay.
RAM, the storage.
Very good, very good. So when just like how Yagala went and looked for few things, all the people who want to do something will be looking at certain things. Now, I don't know where Yagala bought a phone. Where did you buy the phone, Yagala? Yagala, where did you buy the phone? Flipkart, Amazon?
Sir, I bought on Amazon, sir.
Amazon. Okay.
Amazon.
Yeah. So now this is what happens in any of the processes. A person puts a tender. Okay. Yagala might have wanted a phone, so he says, I want certain processor, I want certain RAM, I want certain, like probably memory, and he might have some preference in some brands. So he says, I want all of this, and then he goes and compares the price in various portals and chooses the portal that he likes, right? So this process happens even when you are doing some construction. Okay. Now you will, whatever you are saying is the specification. So if suppose you're going for a road, you will say, I want this to be having so many lanes, the width of each lane should be so wide. Okay. And you will also say what is the load that can that should be resisted by this bridge. Okay. So all of these things become the specification. Now if when we were working in the petrochemical industries, the specifications will be very, very detailed, because they cannot afford any mistake, the owner cannot afford any mistake. And you will also find that there are a lot of things which are repeating across all the work, so it's very easy to develop the specification. But they will be very, very particular, right up to say probably which is the brand of pump which you have to use, and what should be the so many other things, like what are the electrical safety which it should withstand, and so on and so forth. This is specification. And when they do that, they will also do the estimation of cost. How much would it work out? See, for example, if suppose you are going to construct a house, there are certain things. For example, you need to buy the land has a cost. Then you have to get the building permits. This has a cost. This is the legal cost which is associated with it. And then there are other things like what is the type of foundation which you are going to use, what is the type of what you call as the structural system which is going to be there. Or see, for example, when you come to VIT, especially the first years, you will find it as a building called GDN. This is where our civil engineering dean sits. Now there, this building is the oldest in VIT, and it is not having any concrete what you call as the frames. The walls take up the load, so there will be a beam, but the beam rests on the wall. So this is a structural type. This means you are going to do the calculate the amount of brickwork, you are going to calculate other things, and then multiply it by cost, and then you are going to get it. This is our estimation. Now there is another thing called pricing. We will come to that a little later, and we will also one of your mics is open here. Can you just please see close it, right? And then afterwards you will also guys, let me just okay, yeah. So we will be going through these stages now. Okay. Now one of the things which we look at is specification. What is a specification? You will tell that you want only certain people to do the work. This is the precondition. Precondition is very important, because if suppose a person doesn't know a particular kind of work, they cannot finish the work successfully. Okay. So suppose I come and say dismantle a rocket ship. I'm just going to the extreme because I know some of you can repair mobile or laptop or whatever. Now if I bring you a rocket ship and say, yes, now you do it because you are an engineer, you will, although you are an engineer, you might not have the competence to actually fit in a rocket ship. Okay. So this is just an example. Okay. I am not saying that you are not going to be able to do that. I am just putting this as an example. When you are going to put a precondition, it can be that a company should have certain amount of money in their bank, so that in the event of a failure, they will be able to use this reserve. Or they should have done works of that magnitude. Suppose you are going to build a 20-story building, it is not the same as building a 2-story building and scaling it 10 times. As you go up, the kind of equipment you use is going to get different. The safety measures which you have to do becomes even more what you call as important. And if you see, if you see the documentaries like how Burj Khalifa was done and other things, because of the temperature itself, the entire building, like you couldn't use the ordinary measuring methods for ensuring that the building was in plumb and all the dimensions were the way it had to be kept. So it means that to go from ordinary building to something extraordinary, you should have done certain buildings in which are mimicking these characters. So this is what the precondition usually does. When you go further, you have some technical details also, like what is the type of cement which you should use, what is the type of brick which has to be put in. All of these things are in what you call as in black and white. Now suppose you are in the first year and you are doing paper called construction materials. This is where you actually start on this. So you will find that there are a lot of IS codes which are related to different materials. For example, for cement you have very specific IS codes. Now there is a small what you call as thing which you probably need to think about. Usually we only talk about ordinary Portland cement or the OPC. Today, what are the types of cement which are available? Any first year students over here who if you can just tell me in a couple of minutes, it will be great. What are the different types of cements which you are having? See, we have now got, yes please, somebody is wanting to say something.
Sir, Portland cement, sir, white cement,
Yes,
and
okay.
Sir,
PPC, OPC.
Yes, PPC, OPC, then you got blended cements. Yes,
ACC.
ACC is a brand, okay. Not a problem. See, it's good that you're trying to speak, that's very important. Okay, now what happens here is each of these cements have certain things which are not of the same thing as the OPC. OPC is the oldest. Ordinary Portland cement is the oldest. So if you say 28-day water curing, it is something which is very what you call a specific for the ordinary Portland cement. Suppose you are using some pozzolanas in the cement, if you are using some blended cements, you will find that the early gain of strength, especially GGBS, when you use GGBS and other stuff, the early strength is not there. It takes a little while to gain that strength. So this is where when you learn about materials, you have to be very, very clear. Okay. See, for example, what kind of paint will stick with what material? I think paints is something you are working with. What is the type of glazing? What is the merit of one glass compared with another glass? So when you as an engineer are going through this, you will actually get a lot of value for the work which you are doing. Okay. Anyway, I leave that to you. I request you to go and look at all your specifications a little, what you call as material specifications carefully. Here, when you talk about the technical details, the type of machinery, okay, whether you are going to use JCB for your excavation, whether it's tower crane, and unfortunately guys, you are missing out on some of the features of the new ladies hostel which you are building. 16 stories are being constructed and they use a gondola to go up and down to the various levels for doing any of the work. No scaffolding, nothing. It's done in a very safe way. But this was again like something which we specified that you for working in that height you need to do certain types of material. So all of these are what we call as the specifications, technical details, how you are going to work, how you are going to do the curing, how you are going to check whether something is done. See, for example, one of the biggest things where all people have problem is waterproofing. Okay, I don't know how many of you have experienced waterproofing. Now waterproofing in any place has lot of tests. Like for example, they will pond the water, see whether the water is leaking, and then they will say yes, it's fine. If suppose it's taps, they will hold the water in the tank and close all the taps and see whether water is leaking from any of the joints before they close it up. So actually this test has to be mandated by the owner before the start of the job. Only then the contractor is bound to do this work. Okay, moving on. So this is specification. This is one of the first parts of a tender. Okay, So usually you will have the, we were talking about the pre-qualification. There are two things. One, you should be financially sound to be able to take the job. You should have done works of similar cost and also similar type. See, for example, if you want to become a railway contractor, you may not be able to do the track at the first instance. They'll say, okay, you should do some very minor jobs, like for example, demolition of old bridges. Okay, maybe after the gauge conversion there will be some bridges. So now what happens, it's a very small work, but because you take the work, you know how to work, how the railway system works, to whom all you have to get permission, what are the things you should do before you get your bill passed. So this experience eases when will be something you build on, and eases when you go on for higher levels. Okay, so this is pre-qualification. Then there is the technical stuff, like you should have done certain work of certain magnitude in so many layers. For example, if suppose you're going for I was working in the metal handling division, so if you go to any of the thermal NTPC jobs, you should have worked for an NTPC project in the past, say 5 years, of certain value. So suppose you are looking at a 500 crore project, you should have done say 1000 crores worth of job in the past 5 years. So it may be 200 in the first year, 800 in the second, and that is also fine. 3 years you are not getting any job, that's still you still have done your 1000 crores of work. Or it can be 200 in the first year, 300 in the next year, so on and so forth. So in the past 5 years, if you are able to show a total of 1000 crores, that means you are meeting the financial or the pre-qualification criteria. And then you will go for the technical stuff, whether you have done similar jobs, where all have you done similar jobs, whether it was of the same kind. See, for example, today if you see all the thermal power plants, they are all 1000 megawatt plus super thermal power plants. And on the other hand, something 20 years ago, 120 megawatts was considered, like 210 megawatt was considered really big. So when you look at the change, when you look at a 110 megawatt or 210 megawatt power plant and a 1000 plus megawatt power plant, the systems are totally different. Although they look the same, the way they work is different. So this is where a technical qualification is very, very important. Every organization has certain general rules, and this is called the general conditions of contract. So for example, if you go, this should be the color of the sheets which are used for roof and side. This should be the way the garden has to be arranged. This should be the painting scheme. So these will be the general conditions of contract. Special conditions of contract are the ones which are used very specifically for that particular job. Okay, so probably I can quote one case. There was a job which we are doing for DVC. This job required us to keep the coal stockpile, where the coal is kept for the thermal power plant, on an ash pond. Now ash pond is not a very nice place to be. It's all very slimy and other things, and people like it's really a challenge. We had done an earlier project in a place called Anpara. Because of that experience, we were like the favorites. Okay, if we give the job to L&T, since they have done a job of that nature earlier, they'll be able to do it. So what happened is, for this project, they gave some special conditions. These conditions and criteria has to be met. These conditions will not be in any of the other DVC jobs. So this is called as a special condition of contract. So we have, before you go into a job, you have to pre-qualify. Okay, so if suppose you are class 3, class 2, class 1 contractor, so you cannot become the class 1 contractor on day 1. You have to go through the process. Okay, now there is a way by which you can still bypass this pre-qualification. Anybody would like to share with me in this forum how you can bypass pre-qualification? Honest way. I mean, I'm not saying give a bribe or anything. Okay, that's the first thing which people usually tell me. No, but there is a way by which you can bypass pre-qualification. Can any one of you tell me? I'm just looking at the screen hoping that somebody will answer.
Sir, maybe if someone has more experience, a lot of experience.
Very good. Very good, Pratyusha. Very good. And what do you do in that case? You form a joint venture. Okay. Pratyusha, I am adding your name because what you have given is a very good answer. But one thing is that you are a senior student, and I hope all the senior students have the same knowledge which she has. So that's called a joint venture. Okay, so for example, when I was working in CCCL, we had not done any airport job, but we wanted the airport job. So we went and we made a joint venture, and we were able to get it. Okay, I'm not able to HPI Pomeleru something, that was the this one. So CCCL HPI JV was the thing which you will see on the all the crane and all the boards. HPI doesn't do anything. They are silent partners. Okay, they don't have any risk. Just for using their name, we will pay them money. Whether it is correct or not, yes, it's correct. It's a joint venture between two parties. Okay, so the risk which is shared between the parties is a independent agreement between the two. Okay, so how much money is to be given? What is the risk which is which one company is exposed? All of these are things which are what we call as put in the contract in black and white, right? It doesn't matter much. Let me go on to the next one. It's estimation. Meanwhile, any questions in the previous part what we worked on, or what we are discussing? Any questions, please? Right. See, these are some of the methods of estimation. So all of my bosses in L&T were really great. They were able to think of all the things which could go wrong, because they have seen almost everything. 10 years, 20 years, they've been doing the same job. Okay, to the level that probably we would have got bored. And other thing was that they never realized, they never depended on computers. So everything was in their mind, and they could just draw out of it. And sometimes I really envy them. So they will just say, okay, this job is likely to cost so much. So you go to a meeting, you will be wondering what could be the cost and other things, but they'll be very confident, and they'll say the figure. Okay, and it will usually be very close to the actual work, which like what is the cost at which you're going to take the job. Okay, so again, you when I go on to the second part, how you do the estimate. See, this estimate is something which is not what you call as it's not something which is always going to be very binding, and it doesn't mean that just because you think of a price and say it is going to be this one, like what you call as it's going to be wrong. No, it's not the way it is. Whatever they are trying to estimate, it's based on very good sound judgment. Okay, now going on estimation, they can say, okay, this job in this particular place was so much. So for example, you would have done a power plant, say for example 1000 tons per hour of material was being moved. Okay, so you will know what would be the cost when you are going to do something slightly different. So when you are going to look, you will compare, okay, this one had these specifications, this was the type of see for example the conveyor belt which was used. All of these will give them a cost outright. Okay, and then you can compare two things, and it should be similar things. You cannot compare Burj Khalifa with a thermal power plant, right? So you should try to get similar projects done under similar conditions. See, we had done estimates for some of the for some power plants which were done outside India also, but the conditions of contract were not the same. Okay, so there was a comparison which we make, and then we do it. Okay, now the last thing is, we will also probably see, when we were working in Saipem, we had a system called SIOC. SIOC was a database of all the work which you had done, and all the items of work also will be there. For example, fencing, what type of fencing material is there, everything, you have to be very careful. In fact, they had special people called SIOC coordinators who will help us. If we want what we call as a cost code, they will give it to us. So when we do a particular job, we will say this is the estimate as per engineering. Site will verify it. Okay, like for example, I say 100 tons of material, it can become 101 tons in site or 98 tons in site. Okay, but if suppose it is only 50 tons in site, either I have made a very big mistake, or the person in site has made a very big mistake. So there is a mismatch. Why is that mismatch there? They will find. But the other big benefit is, if I am going to go for a similar job, all the works which had been done is recorded in the information system, and this will be used for estimating the next job. Okay. So sometimes you can do some scientific estimate. Those of the people who have done course in construction management, they will immediately say that CPM, critical path method, time estimate. So they say the most probable time which you can do, they will give a weightage of 4. And then what is the very pessimistic time? Okay, you are very pessimistic. How much late it can be? So you will give a weightage of 1, and then you will also give a weightage for the most optimistic thing. Everything is working fine. So you will divide it by 6. Okay, it's because your weightage is given 4, 1, 1. You will divide by 6 and get it. In the same way, estimate also you can give in the same fashion. You can say the cost could be so cheap. Okay, under very ideal conditions. No delays are there. No fines and penalties have been imposed. Tax rate is the cheapest. Okay, then the cost is very less, and then worst case scenario is also there. So you can then take a very probable thing and then put it as a 3-point estimate. Okay, it's a statistical method which you will be using. You can also go for a data analysis method, where you will take all the relevant data and then try to do some number crunching. Again, you will be trying to take 2 or 3 different options. Okay, see, when you do the engineering, you will see that making some slight changes in orientation of the plant, in changing the plant elevation a little, a lot of savings can be achieved. So all of these kind of things you can do, and then make a comparison statement and say, okay, this is how it is summing up to. And then we have the bottom up method. In the bottom up method, all the items which are going to be used for this particular project are going to be taken into account, and then you will be working on that one. So now what happens is, we have now got an estimate. Initially we tried to get what we call as the right person. So before you try to choose the right person, the owner of the job tries to see what are his or her requirements. They will make a rough estimate, and then they will make a document which is the specification. They will say what are the conditions of contract which they have. They will not like to you to do certain things. If certain things happen, what are the penalties? All of those are already given to the contractor in black and white. So now the contractor can do his estimate in any of these methods, which probably would be the way by which even the owner does. So now we go into the other part, costing. Okay, what is costing? What is pricing? Are cost and price the same? Guys, is cost and price the same? Yes, no?
No, sir.
No. Very good. What is the difference between cost and price? It's Sai Bodke. Which year are you in?
Sir, second year.
Second year. Okay, good. No problem. Great. Cost and price are not the same. You are right. What is the difference?
Sir, price is something like which consumer has to pay, and cost is something
Yes.
a particular product is of which is made up of.
Yes, all the individual components. So for example, if you are going to get the bricks and then you are going to construct it, I am sorry here, I am not noting your name right now, Gaurav. I think yes, Gaurav, you are the first person to open your mouth, and yeah, what you said is right again. So what happens is, when you try to do something, there is a cost, okay, and there is a price, and again there is a third thing called value, which is attributed to every product which you work with. Okay, now let's just go and see some of the see the definitions. So whenever you are going to do some product, there are some resources which you work with it, right? So the individual resources has a cost. The resources include the people, the manpower which is put into this, and yeah, I don't know, I was trying to be a little politically right in this, right? We including men and women. So some people get offended when I just say man. I mean, I hope you don't get offended when I say manpower. I'll try to get the right word. Okay, people for the job. Then you have also the cost of equipment. Okay, sometimes you have bought the equipment, right? Although the equipment doesn't form part of the finished product, but to get the finished product, it had also played a very important role. Petrol, oil, electricity, okay, all of these go into the cost. Even when you get the permissions, that also goes into the cost, right? So when you buy a product, the owner would have already paid, I mean the person who is doing the product has paid some tax, right? So all of these go into the cost. Then comes the price. So how much do you want to make a profit? Now if you see the Indian scenario, it doesn't apply for construction, but you have what is called as the MRP. So the shopkeeper can buy it at any price. So suppose he is buying a chocolate at 49 rupees 99 paise, he can still only say sell it for 50 paise. Of course now 50 paise is not there, so let me say 99 paise, and he is trying to sell it for a rupee, he still makes a profit of only 0.01. So how much profit he wants to make, it means he has to either cut the cost in production and procurement, or be happy with the small product profit and try to make the profit by selling more numbers. This is a thing which is decided by the person. And again, value is opinion on the fair price. See, for example, today one of the things which has happened is Swiggy and other people have started to charge for delivery, and it seems to be quite high, right? It's now feeling much more than what we usually get it on for your other delivery things. So it is a little what you call as I mean, like, you know, it's again opinion, right? Whether it is going to satisfy my need, okay, or whether it is too much. So this is something which is opinion, whether I'm getting value for my money. So these are three very important things: cost, price, and value. So when a owner is selling, they have different things associated with it. It might have sentimental value. My great grandfather gave me this, I don't want to sell it. So if I want to sell it, I won't sell it for half a crore, I'll sell it for say 3 crores or 5 crores. So this is where, you know, the whole thing of value comes into the equation. So cost is fact. Okay, if you are going to buy a brick, cost of brick is cost of brick. 100 rupees for a Aerocon block, 100 rupees, plain and simple, that's it. Price is a policy. So that 100 rupees, when the company tried to sell it to you, if he wants to make a 5 rupee profit, it's his policy. If they want to make, you know, like a much more larger or a smaller profit, again it's their policy. We cannot go in with that. See, for example, when CCCL took the airport project, it was a matter of pride. They wanted to somehow or the other do one airport project, because that will give them pre-qualification. They can do other airport projects. I think they took up Trivandrum Airport after Chennai Airport. Because they were successful in Chennai Airport, Trivandrum Airport was possible to quote. They didn't need a joint venture partner. So the policy decision by the top management was, come what may, at whatever price, I am going to get my airport project. Okay, so this is what it is. And value is a opinion. Okay, I'm sorry if I'm blocking the screen. So value is a opinion. Value is a opinion. And yeah, so one of the things we do is whenever you are going to go for pricing and other things, the tendering is something which is done as a very big thing, which is not done at a very small level. Engineers, you know, like when we went, it will be only very painful. We'll be doing length into breadth into height. Then the boss will say, "Arey, don't do this. Give this much of length. Reduce 500 mm. What happens? Increase the depth by so many mm. What happens?" So you will feel very, you know, like frustrated. Of course, if you learn Excel and, you know, try to do it, try to automate all of these things. If you automate what I call as the donkey's work, you'll find estimation and tendering fund. Okay, believe me, I had a lot of automated sheets, and so it didn't really matter for me, like, you know, I didn't find it very painful. And when you guys are also put into that position, probably those of you who are smart, you will also try to develop such sheets. Okay, and yeah, I'll come, because, you know, importance of English, how you present is very, very important. If you miss a full stop, comma, or something is lost in translation, it all means you're going to face a court case. Okay, many times it's going to go into court. I'm not going to arbitration, I'm not going to other dispute resolution mechanisms which usually comes in a regular course of tendering and this one. But look at this, I'll really love this. Okay, so some of you may have even heard of this. So this is what English professor wrote and asked the class to punctuate the sentence. Okay, now I'm not going to do that to you guys. So the men had written, a woman, comma, without her man is nothing, and the women wrote, a woman without her man, same thing, okay, is nothing. Now look at this. What has the colon done to the statement? Okay, what has the comma done to the statement? Okay, actually there is this is the power of punctuation. Same words used in the same order is going to make a very big difference. Okay. Now at this point, especially to the first year students who are here, I want to introduce to you something called as the phrase bank. It's useful for all of you. So when you do your work, the phrase bank gives you a set of phrases which you can use to describe something. For example, we have the academic phrase bank. So when you are writing a paper or something, you want to describe results. So it has a section called describing of results. So it will say what are the ways by which this same thing can be phrased. This is called as the academic phrase bank. There's also the thesaurus, which helps you get what we call as different word combinations. And thirdly, I love a tool called Paper I use it extensively to see the quality of my writing, and of late I've taken to Grammarly. I've got a premium subscription and I think that it's kind of worth it because it helps me avoid some of the common mistakes which I would have been probably prone to do. And I strongly feel that all of us need help, and my wife is an English teacher, and it's also very handy. Like whenever I'm going to post some article, I ask her to go through it for clarity, whether the intent of what I mean is clearly conveyed and communicated in the document. Okay, speaking about my wife, I got her a mug. Okay, it was saying something like I fight with you and other things, and then it goes, I am sorry, I love you. Okay, now the thing is, when you just read it, I'm sorry, I love you means one thing, I'm sorry, comma or full stop, I love you. Okay, I do all of this, I'm sorry, full stop, I love you. So that full stop, presence and absence of the dot makes a very big difference, because when you see this, that I will still be a capital, right? So when you read it and you miss that dot, it makes a difference. This is what I'm trying to put across in saying that your spoken communication is one side. Most of the VAT students don't have any trouble with that, but your written communication is also equally important. Okay, your written communication is also equally important, right? So I will stop with this. I'm posting some of the videos here. Okay, these are some of the lectures which I have done. So if suppose you want to see what is a tender document, you can go through it. Whatever we spoke today, like in this 5 minutes, it has been put in here, and the rest of the stuff also are related to contracts and tenders. Okay, now I'll leave the house. I'm just throwing the house open for questions. Any questions, please? Any questions?
Sir,
Yes, please.
this is a very basic question, but to get into
Yeah.
the job of tendering, after what is the basic educational qualification?
See, to be very honest, when you look at tendering, it's mainly only common sense. Okay, there's no, I cannot say that there is a any particular qualification which you have, but then to get into the position of like getting into tendering, like where the decision making level is there, it takes a lot of time, because in L&T this is how it works. All of us in the more junior level were working on quantities. Our main work was to generate quantities in different ways for different configurations of the plant. Later on, all the bosses will sit together and then they will talk. So there will be a construction manager, there will be the boss of the entire division, vice president, who has to take a decision on profitability, and then there are also the other people when I say other people, the people like the costing department, because you have to be able to buy the product, right? See, sometimes you may engineering may say, okay, let us keep red brick, but in that when you write it down in the contract document, it may not be available. So when the people in the specific division sees, they'll take a different call. So when you ask a question, what is the minimum requirement, it is very difficult to answer. But friends, I'll put one very important thing to you. I don't know how many of you have the habit of looking at the newspaper. When you open the classified section for wanted, help wanted, you'll find now more of one is site engineer, of course, quantity surveyors, and those related jobs. Site work is the only work in civil engineering which is not going to go away, and other thing is quantity surveying. And quantity surveying, I feel, will be a very important thing for you to start on tendering. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yes, Pratyusha. Any other questions, please? I was having two minds, like take a lot of photographs and then show you the thing. But the problem with that is that it's very difficult to make a lot of stuff with photographs. For example, you take a photograph of reinforcement rod, it will just look like a sieve. Very difficult to. Yeah, somebody has a question. Yes, Ashutosh.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Ashutosh. Please tell me, Ashutosh. Yeah, somebody wanted to say something. I'm not sure who wanted to say it.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Yugander. Good
Sir,
evening.
can we, while estimating the work, sir, can we use which rates are released by PWD department?
Okay, this is a good question.
Can we use it?
This is a very common thing which has been done. PWD rates are the rates at which they will work on. Okay, so if they say I'm going to buy at 10 rupees, you cannot put 10 rupees plus profit. You might have to get it at a much lower level if you want to, lower price point if you want to make a profit. You can use the PWD work as an indicative number. Okay, we have what is called as the Delhi schedule of rates. I'm sorry, I'll just finish this. We have something called the Delhi schedule of rates. When you use the Delhi schedule of rates, it will be giving you a fairly good idea, because all the PWDs will scale that value and then give you the rates. Okay. Yeah. Yes, Yugander.
So while estimating, we should compare the PWD rate and what are our rates,
Yeah.
and we should make a profit.
Correct. See, I will give you one small example. When we were when I was working in L&T, we were given a what seemed like an impossible task. See, in October, they told, forecast your entire requirement for the next year. Okay, if I am in the job, I mean like in the tendering office, I don't know who is going to float a tender literally in the next year. But then all of a sudden you are asked, give me diameter wise, okay, how many 6 mm, how many tons of 6 mm rod you want, how much cement you want. Because what they were doing is, they were going to go and negotiate with steel rolling mills and say, okay, look, I can consume all the steel you can produce, at what price you will give me. Okay, so now if you see, the cost which L&T would be able to procure its material is much cheaper than other companies, right? So this kind of things is what makes a difference in your entire costing process. So costing is a very big what you call as it's like a very big chess game. How you strategize and do is the way you win. I hope I answered your question, Yugander.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes, Yagala, Sushant. Good evening.
Sir, when doing the tendering process, like giving the budgets for a private party or maybe a government project,
Yes.
there might be some 3 to 5 companies or even more companies who are giving the budget, right?
Correct. Correct.
Isn't like difficult? Like if there is a big company like L&T or Tata or someone who's giving the budget, it definitely depends on the party who they want to give. But if it is some small party, but if the tender is quite good, even though they did only one or two projects, not more, will that, I mean, is that safe enough, like
It's
to do
not
the
a
tender
matter
or
of
no?
safe enough. It is more like whether the pre-qualification is met. For example, Triple Sail had not constructed any airport, so they could not breach one segment. Okay, so they made a joint venture and managed to break that. Like that name that we have not done any tender. Now, when a small company is quoting with the pre-qualification, usually the price will be lower. Okay, and you rightly pointed out, I forgot to put it, like usually all the people who do the tender, they'll all put in the tender document with the prices, and the company, the owner, the one who wants to do the job, will compare whether all the technical specifications they wanted is met, whether all the pre-qualification criteria is got. Then they will come for the pricing. All the previous steps will be for disqualifying the bidders who are not what we call as competent or who have made mistakes. Usually they'll try to get some corrections, but if suppose it's a job where many people are quoting, they will not go for they'll summarily reject those documents. When you come to the crux of the matter, it boils down to cost. Okay, if you pre-qualify and your cost is less, even L&T and other companies will be thrown out. Okay, so for example, if you see the Statue of Unity, no other person might have been able to even give a convincing setup, or I mean, like convincing way by which you can do the work. And also I remember I don't know how many of you are from Mumbai. In Mumbai, there's a new link, which is sea link, which is being done beyond the existing sea link. They are making a road on the sea. It passes through military installations, it passes through some marine ecologically sensitive places. There's a shipping channel also. So all of these mean there are a lot of challenges in the construction. L&T demonstrated the technique of what we call as the construction as a video. They simulated the whole thing and then they showed it to the owner, and then they got the job. So to get a job, one thing is, a small company may not be even able to muster 1,500 crores or 3,000 crores. No financial agency will trust them with that much money, and no person may even have that much of money to even start off with. So automatically they will not be able to bid. But if they are able to get all the pre-qualification, nothing stops them from getting the job. Okay, I hope I answered your question. Okay guys, shortly you will be able to see this in the Zoom chat window. Please download it and use it. And very quickly, tendering is the like bread and butter of any EPC company. Whenever the word contracting comes, you should have a strong tendering team. Tendering is a process where a person tells somebody that they want work to be done. They'll clearly mention what is the work they want without any discrepancy. So the person who wants to take the job studies the document, prepares his estimate, sometimes does a little bit of engineering, and then he submits the quote. And this is one part which I probably didn't tell in the other things. All the interested parties make the quote. The lowest one who qualifies in all respects is the one who is being selected for the job, and then they do the work and they make a lot of money, and all of us can live happily ever after. Okay, so thanks a lot for joining. If you have any questions, do feel free to contact me, and I really look forward to meeting all of you soon, but I don't know when the pandemic is going to get over. Stay safe. I think I'll pass the control on to Pratyusha Nayak. She's the
Yes, sir.
yeah, she's the organizer, and thank you so much for putting the whole thing together, advertising and all the other, there's so much of physical arrangement also which is required, especially in the virtual mode. So thank you so much for all the work which you have done. Over to you, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with this incredibly informative and interactive session. And thank you all of participants.
Guys, Gaurav Yadav, Shaktiman Mahato, Sanjeev Mohanty. Okay, you either send your details to this one. Okay, I'll just send you via email your Amazon gift card. Okay, I'll have Pratyusha to be the central.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a good evening.
Thank you. So we'll end the call.
Both of thank you, sir, for
Thank you, Suresh bhai.
Yeah.
for this event.
Thank you.
Wish you have a good time, sir.
I'm so glad here. I'm glad you found it useful. And all of you have been staying late after your class. Many of you might have attended class also and then still made it. And I'm very pleased and I'm very happy that you could join in. Thank you. I'm ending the call now.